What's that, Tatum?
Monies.
Money!
Monies. Monies. Monies.
Money!
Make it rain.
One beat maker, the hit maker, the hit maker.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Part 3 of 3 with Colby Dietz, Process Podcast number 12. Moving forward. So in the second part, we talked about buying Blastaway, the process behind it. I mean, it was a year and a half. I mean, it usually doesn't take that long in a stereotypical transaction of that nature to buy a business. It's 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Sometimes it can take longer.
Well,
Sometimes it
depending
can
on
take less.
financing and stuff.
Yeah. There's a lot of there's some factors there for sure. So we were extra slow, extra conservative, extra careful to make sure we found
Which
the
is something
perfect
that
first
is
asset.
not a bad idea for your first business. Yes.
Yeah.
Or
Absolutely.
first
There was
bigger
a lot,
business.
There was a
yes.
lot of pre-planning, a lot of strategizing happening
Yes.
during that time. That was very beneficial when we first took that business over.
Yeah, and not only that, but the dollars not only had to pay for the debt servicing because we were 100% loan to value. We also needed to pay for management and net some money at the end of the day. And to find an asset like that is very, very difficult, especially if you don't know how to break down what you're seeing on a financial statement. And now it's been 3 years, right? It'll be 3 years, April 1st,
Yeah.
right? It was not an April Fool's joke. No, we were actually buying the business. And we break down in part 2 or 3, we broke down like the story behind it. You know, Colby leaving his job, Sheldon leaving his job, and me, I don't know what I was doing. I mean, working 10-hour a week.
Running
Real
Chris Dorn
estate.
Enterprises.
Yeah. I was flipping houses at the time, and we were at the tail end of a few real estate deals. In fact, the real estate market was starting to collapse upon itself.
Yeah, we had a few
And we were
flips
trying
going
to
at the time.
we were
yeah.
trying to unload the properties as fast as we could, and we actually that was when I first started to seeing losses on my flips. It was the end of 2014. We tied up Blastaway. We were getting financing. We were harassing Colby, and we were sitting on
That was a crazy
4
year.
or 5 properties
Yeah.
left, and we lost on 2 of them.
Yeah, lost. We won on decent on some in the beginning, and
Yeah.
then we started not winning, and then losing, and then we ended up getting stuck with one, which we still have.
Yes.
It was supposed to be a flip,
Yeah.
right? So yeah.
But that was always our strategy too. Look, if we can't
Yeah,
sell
well,
it for a
cash flow,
profit, we
yeah.
can hold it, cash flow,
Yeah.
long-term hold.
Yeah, so I mean, we weren't expecting it, but
Yeah.
you know, that's the one thing with real estate. You should never lose money in real estate. It just depends how patient you are. If you're not patient, you're gonna lose some fucking money along the way if you're playing this game. So
Yeah, and we've seen it. We've seen people
Oh.
panic and pull their money out
and then say
Yeah,
real
oh,
estate
yeah,
investing
yeah.
is the worst.
Frustrated,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're
Yeah, it's a
saying-
long-term play. I mean,
Yeah.
real estate moves very slow, up or down.
Yeah.
It's a slow-moving asset,
Yep.
and to expect yourself to make hundreds of thousands of dollars in a few years, I mean, you can do it actively, like flipping, like we
Yeah.
were.
And
right?
we did
But
lose money, but that's
lost
okay
money.
because on a few, but we made money. You know, we still netted positive, and we were
Oh,
okay
yeah,
with
and
losing
then some.
money. We
And
were
then
okay
some.
with losing money
Yeah.
on those couple because we still netted positive at the end of our group of flips.
Yeah.
That it was still worth it. to
Our
us,
success
right?
rate was over 95%.
Yeah.
That's pretty good,
Yeah.
especially with the margin that we were making. So going in April 1st, this is what this was my reality, is we were losing on a couple of properties. I was a little stressed out about that, right? I was kind of stressed about, okay, now we got to buy Blastaway, and, we have to walk in and really, clean things up. And I remember the first 2 weeks, I had the general ledger report for the last 7 years. And I'm not sure if you guys remember, but I went through every single transaction for the last 7 years. You guys remember that? I was pulling out stuff left, right, and center.
Yep.
That just didn't make sense. But it was, looking back, did I have to do that? No. But I learned a lot
We got to learn
during
the
that
business,
process.
right?
Yeah. And one of the factors when you're evaluating a business, let's say, oh, yeah, 100% loan to value. Yeah, I want to do that too. Well, another factor, if it's not broker listed, okay, brokers usually have something called a normalized income statement to try and derive value, right? If you're looking at a read-only statement, you don't have a normalized income statement. So you have to derive value off the read-onlys. And that's easier said than done. And one of the factors is removing the owner expenses. Now, you know, if you're really trying to grind a guy and you include those in the operational expenses without even knowing it, one, he's going to get less than it's really worth. And then two, you're going to think it's less of an asset than it really is. I mean, you need to be aware that, hey, that $20,000 trip to Italy, that's not an operations expense. That's going to bump up your net. That's going to bump up your EBITDA. That's going to bump up your evaluation. So that's one of the most important things. I looked through 7 years of every single transaction in the business going, oh, this is an owner expense. This is an owner expense. Okay, da-da-da-da-da. And breaking it down and trying to have a better understanding of where we're going to sit a year from now operationally. What's our operation margin, right? What's our gross, gross margin, yes, but, what are we going to walk away with on the bottom end, right? And, now it's been 3 years. 3 years later, it's been a pretty decent ride so far, right? I mean,
Learned a lot.
Learned
Yeah.
a lot.
it's
Yeah,
been pretty
absolutely.
good. What is your number one takeaway, like, out of the last 3 years? Is there any, like, aha, super key moment that you guys have had over the last 3 years?
There's been so many, honestly.
Well, go ahead. Why don't you start?
No, go ahead. I got too many.
Okay. Just knowing, even idle assets and
Yeah.
paying attention to what's actually there, whether you can put it to work, whether you can utilize it, or whether you should just sell it and take the cash and reinvest into the business itself by buying, something else that you're going to be able to put to work, right? So I think that was a very valuable lesson learned for us right out of the gate was how much stuff, idle assets we had sitting that we were able to either flip or put to work, things like that, right? There's a really good lesson learned out of that.
Yeah, non-performing assets.
Yeah.
To try and turn non-performing assets into performing assets. It's just a little magic trick on the balance sheet, but it also helps the business. It runs leaner, it runs
absolutely.
more
Yeah.
profitably, right?
Reinvesting those funds back into the business and something that makes money will make a substantial difference. Year one, but year 3, 4, and 5 down the road, it's going to return huge
Yeah.
dividends.
On that note, if you are motivated to kind of learn these things, one thing I would Google is return on net assets. Read Vern's book, Scaling Up, and have a better understanding of what return on net assets is and why that's so important. But Sheldon, going to you now, like what's your number one takeaway? I know you've had a lot of takeaways, but what do you feel is the most impactful?
I think knowing the numbers and watching your expenses, getting to know your expenses inside out, backwards, forwards, and then how can you tighten the screws and trim your expenses, because it doesn't matter how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. And if you're not keeping a watchful eye on what's going out the back end, I think we were blown away fairly quickly the first few months there, how quickly money just goes right out the back door, right? So you really got to put a system in place to manage your back end expenses, because they will get out of control very fast.
Absolutely.
And combined with labor, same thing. I think expenses and labor are the big things you got to monitor, watch, have a system in place for keeping them kind of in check, because it's crazy. And how many businesses have we looked at where like the back end expenses are just off the charts?
Crazy.
Yeah.
I feel the biggest aha moment for me is the cash flow statement specifically, because I think it's the most overlooked statement of all three. So if you're not familiar, there's the income statement, there's the balance sheet, and then there's the statement of cash flows. And for me, when I first started looking at businesses, I didn't even look at the statement of cash flows. I never even looked at it. The only thing I looked at really was, where does the balance sheet wash out? Where does the income statement wash out? But I never, when we first started looking, when it took us a year and a half to get Blastaway, I would never look at the statement of cash flow. Super ignorant of me. It just so happened, it just so happened to be a decent cash flow, statement of cash flow asset. And I feel that it's the most often overlooked. And you can be profitable on the financial side, on the financial statement. And your balance sheet could look perfect, right? But your cash flow could be going in a negative direction. And you wouldn't even know. So for me, the statement of cash flows is so important. And if you're listening to us and you're going, wow, 100% loan to value to purchase this business, you know, because I always think about the guy that's in my position when I started investing, is no cash, no credit. What do you do, right?
Yeah.
And instead of playing the victim card, you know, you actually have quite a few options, especially in today's day and age. And so if you want to buy a business, whether it's 60, 80, or 100% loan to value, you have to know your statement of cash flows. If you talk to lenders, you know, we've built some pretty good relationships with reps from certain firms that lend money specifically to buy business assets. And when I sit down with them, I buy them a beer, they, fortunately enough, buy me a beer. The first thing they talk about is how often people sit in front of them, show them the income statement, go, look how profitable we are. And then they ask, well, what's the cash situation? They want to know the statement of cash flows. So I would say, okay, learn to read read-only statements, learn how to derive value off the financial income statement, but at the same time, you have to really value the statement of cash flows above everything at the end of the day.
And there was even understanding, I know I'm not going to get it right, I can't quite remember it, but I do need to refresh my memory on this. When we went to Tony Robbins, there was that Keith Cunningham guy.
Oh, yeah,
Remember,
yeah.
even he broke down, even on the statement of cash flows, there's 3 different types of cash flows, or was there 4?
I don't
remember
remember.
that either.
Oh, you're talking passive
No.
investment income, passive income. Is
shit.
that what you're
I
talking
just
about?
butchered it. I can't remember,
The
but-
4 different incomes?
Yeah, no, there's different, on the statement of cash flows, there's different levels of your, different types of cash flows of that statement.
yeah.
So, yeah, and then
You need to break down operationally.
the next level of understanding your cash flow statement is understanding what types of cash flows are derived on that statement.
Yeah.
And literally, if you understand all of that, obviously, I need to refresh my memory on it.
All of us, yeah.
But that is huge value, and it'll tell you exactly what your business is doing, if it's good or if it's bad, or
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
all
and
of
what
that.
people need, again, to understand is you can have profitability on the income statement, but you could be going broke. You could be growing broke.
Yeah.
You can, you think you're netting money, but if your AR is slow and your AP is fast and you got a big payroll,
There we go.
Glitching out there.
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you burn through all your cash, and then you're forced to sell, and you don't really understand why, because hey, my income statement was flawless. So I just want to start this episode off. What is that? 15? Holy man! So, is there anything you guys want to touch on? Like, this is the last one, and this is kind of the end of the day. Is there anything you guys feel relevant that you guys want to bring to the table? You want to talk about?
I'll talk about, so my other business is Real Canadian Property Management, and I would say, we talked a little bit about buying a cash flowing business day one. So my experience with Real Canadian Property Management was such that, we had bought a very small business that wasn't making a lot of money day one, right? It was cash flowing somewhat, but very small. So then we immediately turned around within, I think, 3 months and ended up buying out a competitor property management company who wasn't making any money. But then when you combine those services and you make one, you kind of amalgamate them and make one company out of the two, one that was just small and not making a lot of money, and one that had a bunch of bad debt and stuff for that. When we buy it, a lot of that bad debt gets eliminated, and you can combine it with the first one, and then you kind of have something there, right? So, just because it doesn't look the best on paper, per se either, once you get to know what you're doing and understand these things, if you can combine it with something, amalgamate it with an existing service, some of those things who don't look all that shiny, you know, at first glance can definitely have some huge value there as well.
Lots of opportunity to eliminate some expenses or
Dropping
lower
a lot
them,
of bad
dropping-
debt. Yeah.
Be more efficient. And
Yeah,
not only that, it's,
efficiencies,
it's such a fast way to grow when you start buying out
Yeah.
competitors and buying other businesses that are either complementary or
Yeah.
literally the same in the same industry or sector, right?
Yeah.
So-
So talking about a crazy 2014. So like for me, we were doing I had a full-time job, doing a bunch of house flips with you
Yeah.
on the side,
What?
which
And
started
losing money.
yeah,
Losing money.
it started going a little bit crazy, and then, you know, like I said, losing money to end up being stuck with some. Then we ended up buying, so my first business with my business partner, Jason Scott, shout out to Jason Scott.
Realtor in Grand Prairie.
That's
If
right.
you're looking to buy or sell a home.
Yeah,
Grand
Sutton
Prairie.
Real Estate. You know, so we ended up buying Real Canadian Property Management. 3 months later, ended up buying out a competitor property management company and amalgamating those, which was crazy times. And then 3 or 4 months later after that, then we ended up buying Blastaway together, you know, with these guys. So, yeah, it was a crazy, crazy time there for a while, and you know, definitely learned a lot, and there was a lot of shit happening every 2-3 months. It was insane.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, what was your stress level?
He's got no hair. Got no
You know
hair
what?
anymore.
Yeah,
I got no hair left, so-
He had hair when it started. Oh.
You know what? I've learned to manage stress quite well, I think. You know, and I always managed it pretty decently, but it's just a different type of stress. I think maybe I wasn't as stressed out as I should have been in the beginning due to naivety or ignorance on my part. You know, and I think you get more stressed out as you start learning business and understanding different things, and you know, doing something or not doing something, the position that puts you in, you know, good or bad. So I would say, you know, the stress level I'd say now is lower than ever in a lot of areas, but pretty high in some, right? It's just different types and depending on what goes on.
That
right?
comes
So-
with experience and knowledge too, as
Yeah.
well, right? As you can grow your knowledge base, and you can, you know, slowly get the experience, right? Whether good or bad doesn't matter. The stress level that you can take on grows as
Yeah.
well too, as well. Just different types of stresses, different ways to handle those stresses, right?
So I remember the first business I ever had, home-based business, was like automotive tuning and computer programming, vehicle accessories and stuff I was selling and doing out of my house. And this is how much my context has improved. So I just no whiz kid, definitely, you know, a mechanic by trade for, you know, 15 years or whatever. Nothing special about me when it comes to investing and knowledge. There's no fucking Doogie Howser of investing, right? But you know, even my stress level, I couldn't take very much in the beginning. I got a stress headache for 3 days because I couldn't get a package, a vehicle accessory mailed to somebody on time, like when they wanted it. And that was my context at the time, you know, and that was maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago now. But I mean, going from, you know, having a stress headache for 3 days trying to make, you know, one package delivery and figuring out, you know, pickups, drop-offs, how can I get this part here on time for this guy, to what we deal with now, like
It's night and day.
like it's night and day. And to be honest, like I would just delegate that now. Like I wouldn't even it wouldn't even be
Yeah,
my position
yeah.
to even stress about it. So
Yeah.
like the growth of, you know, this is why we go to events, conferences, personal growth, reading or you know, listening to a book a week, all that stuff, because it'll help your context. The more you can take on, the more you can deal with and grow. And that's where Tony was saying, you know, it's 80% mental. Success is 80% mental, 20% mechanical. I'm really heavily focusing on the 80% this year because I want to grow.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how stressed were you, Colby?
1 to 10, that was more stressful working with my brother than anything, trying to get used to that. No, I mean, didn't have a lot of sales experience before this, really.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, a little bit stressed out. Had to change the way I did things. Obviously,
So
had
like a 9.
to learn a few things.
It's
Eh.
9.5.
I definitely, this was a lot less stress than my previous job, right? In
Nine,
regards to what was
9
expected.
and
Fuck,
15,
I'd hate to
16.
see you at work with you at your previous job.
I had a lot of experience. I had
Yeah.
a lot of knowledge. I could handle it a little bit different. But no, overall, I couldn't even place myself on a scale. I don't even really remember because it was so different back then compared to what it is now and the stresses we face now. But obviously, I had my good days and my bad from you guys picking on me a little bit. But I mean, hey, it's all part of the process, right?
Yeah, I know I was a 10 out of 10 when we first walked in there because I
There's a lot
really
going
don't
on.
like to lose money. And those two deals, man, they got under my skin. Not only that, but I didn't want this deal to go bad, right? And I got all up in my head there. So that's why I got so obsessed. Went through the general ledger report and just buried my head into that for 2-3 weeks solid and just tried to learn every single transaction in the business, get that OCD, impulsive, obsessive behavior, right? And it wasn't until 6-7 months later when everything was kind of finalized, because the owner still stuck around for a few months. Now the owner transitioned out, and now it's our business. And oh, by the way, we're profitable. It's okay. Well, now I can, 'cause I don't have families, so if this goes south, I'm fine. But I'm a pretty empathy. Empathy's a big thing for me, and I just don't. I don't want. You guys have families. I get all empathetic and shit. It gets to me, right? So I was 10 out of 10 for sure for the first 4, 5, 6 months.
Well, you were definitely put to the test. I remember.
Yeah, well, there was
after,
a lot
after the
of-
first
there was
couple
a
months
lot
of
of
taking
things
over
we
that
had to
business.
just
There was a
learn.
lot of things.
We tweaked their AR. Like I was on our largest customer.
Yep.
Heavy to fix our AR situation, and it did. It went from 45 to a very impressive 14-day AR, which
Which is almost unheard of. Like
which
very
is
few
unheard of,
businesses are
right?
able to take
I mean,
advantage,
unless you're
capitalize
retail,
on that.
right? POS machine, boop, okay, money's in the bank. I get that, but for our service-based business model
In the oil patch.
in the oil patch
Yeah.
in our industry and sector, 14-day AR is unheard of.
Yeah.
So it took us 3, 4, 5 months to get to that and to orchestrate that deal, and that changed the entire cash flow of the business. That sped up
Yeah.
our cash flow. And again, another thing, if you're Googling terms and trying to learn things, first one was net return on net assets. Second one is cash conversion
Cycle.
cycle. Yeah, but essentially, is when a dollar leaves the business, how quick does it come back?
Yeah.
That's a big deal, and you want
Very big deal.
you want that to be as advantageous and as fast as possible.
Yeah.
So that way you can keep reinvesting. It comes back quick, and that reinvestment, that whole cycle, helps to grow your business even faster, and you grab more market share. And the thing is, if you're not growing, you're contracting. There is no staying the same. So if you're not in that cycle, someone is going to take market share from you, especially those who have got that cycle down to a science. You're really you're questioning the very sustainability of the asset.
Yeah.
And it takes cash to grow.
That's what I
It
was
takes
just
a
gonna
lot
say.
of cash to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if your cash is 30, 60, 90, or even some of these companies are 120 days out.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus. You got a lot of expenses and a lot of payroll in there, so how do you cash up to grow? I mean, it's very, very difficult. So
Which brings me back to the number one aha moment for me, which was the cash flow statement. And once we were able to improve on that with Blastaway, that gave me a lot of confidence, a lot of experience to be able to do that again with a separate asset.
yeah. And that is something we look at when we're looking at businesses to buy. What's the AR, and what can we get it down to, or can we improve it? Because we've realized, I think all of us have realized how important that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I just said, I'm trying to watch my knows.
So we're at 23 minutes. Let's do rapid fire, huh?
Oh, God.
Huh?
Oh,
What do we got here? Wait. Oh. Nice. I'm excited.
God.
Okay. First question, Sheldon. How many times have you tried to regrow your hair?
Done.
Not once?
I made my decision. I'm sticking to it.
Not once.
Done.
Oh my god. Colby, how often do you have to shave?
I don't even know. I hardly ever shave. Usually I grow big Bushman beard, and then I trim it once, and
But that's like 2 days, right?
probably.
3 days? 2 days? Excellent. You guys got any marry, fuck, kill questions going on? No?
No.
I'm
gonna
still
keep
blown
it-
away you want to fuck Brad Pitt. I
Yeah.
just like, that's
Rattle
No,
the
first
earth.
of all, I
That
said
screwed me.
marry. I
That's-
said marry.
that's-
I said marry.
Stay to this
that's
side, I
messed
guess.
me up for the last 3 podcasts. Good
Hey,
God.
I'm good with my sexuality. I'm just saying. Hey,
I
he's
know.
a handsome
you,
guy.
I can
He's
tell
built
he's got
himself.
patches on his sweater. Very comfortable with his sexuality.
Yeah, he's built himself a nice little empire. I think he's done well. On that note, we're 23 minutes in, 25. We're gonna end this process, this podcast. This was episode number 12.
Yep.
Number 12, 3 of 3 with Colby Dietz. Really appreciate it, guys. If you like the podcast, please share it. Invite other people to us. Like the post. Any engagement whatsoever. We're
Suggest
super
things
appreciative
you
of.
guys want to talk about. You want to
Yeah.
come on here, chat with us,
Yeah.
rapid fire,
Yeah.
Chris.
Be in the rabbit.
Me asking you awkward questions is one of the qualifications. If you're okay with that, then I will ask you an awkward question. So, moving forward, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a good one.